welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Ann. Disembodied Hands, Quinty, Disembodied Beard, John. Just seeing how fast I can say this intro, and Kiki's napping. So no dog appearance yet. Hello, everybody. And it's the weather. It's the most interesting subject ever for every human on the planet. We're in Rainland for the next several days. I think it's overcast today. Yep. Yeah, up in frozen Canada. Shadow Raven. It's always freezy. Alright, well, I don't actually have a model prepped to replace this, although I have models prepped, so maybe we'll grab a different model if we finish all this basing stuff. But right now, I want to do a couple things. I want to add my last bit of static grass, and then we're going to actually add some of my flocking mixture around the static grass to hopefully blend it in and make it look less static grassy. You know, less clumpy. Less clumpy, more natural. That's the goal anyway. I'm going to put a little bit... I think I'm actually not going to put grass on the back. I could. I left a little shelf. When you're working with cork, it's easy to leave little shelves. So I left a little shelf right here, a little flat space where I could put some grass. I guess I could. Yeah, sure. We'll grab a little tiny tuft of static grass. We'll pop it there. And maybe one down here. We don't want to put it under the overhang because grass wouldn't necessarily grow, but maybe right here at the edge. That'll repeat it around the model, and then we can see about blending it in a little bit. I don't like moss, Shadow Raven. My experiences with it have always been that it does not look in scale, or you have to work with it. It's very hard to get it to lie right, depending on the type of moss. I'm not a fan, thus we'll be using my flocking mixture, which creates a very natural effect. Moss to me, I just don't, I've never seen it used like really great on a mini. I could see using it for slightly larger things, but to me it's I don't know. I'm just not a big fan. And when it dries out, it gets very brittle. So you have to seal it. Things like that. So those are the reasons I don't use it. Like, I use some of David's, like, little bits of plant and moss and stuff, but I tend to use them for, like, longer grass effects. Because, I don't think they're in scale for shorter grass. So here, this is a springtime model, so we don't want a lot of long vegetation necessarily. My vision for this thing is a lot of close growing vegetation. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of moss. I tried to use it a lot in my early days in mini painting, and it never turned out the way I wanted it to. So I pretty much just gave up on it because there's really no point. If I have solutions that I like using and that I think look good, there's really no point in going with it. Alright, I'm going to grab a little tuft of static grass, one that's kind of oblong off of the surface here. It'll probably grab some extra stuff, but that's fine. We can pull that extra stuff right off. Static grass clumps also not great, but they will work. I like to use traditional static grass a little bit more sometimes. But for this, because I've got these little precise shelves and stuff. Yeah, but moss and lichen, and this is soil too. It's soil and rock interspersed, right? We haven't finished painting it all. But the real thing here is that if there are moss and lichens on this, you're not going to use any basing material for them because they're so fine scale that the only way to depict moss and lichen at 25 or 28 or 32 millimeter scale is through like actual paint, maybe texture paste done really fine. But if you think about it, it's like it's not a huge amount of texture, and when you shrink that down to scale, you don't, no real world moss would be useful for that. So I'm kind of a sucker for, I really hate things that look out of scale. which is why I actually trimmed all my static grass to make it shorter. Because sometimes I feel like static grass is even a bit out of scale. So I ended up pulling these apart, and I have 2 little clumps, so I'm going to use those. But I am going to trim them. I'm at least going to trim the big one. Yeah, how about no, Thormel? That requires upkeep. I have a hard enough time keeping my actual houseplants from dying, much less worrying about misting minis. Cool, I'm about to start on my blanket twistedoma. I looked up some different pattern stitches that I could use for the different panels to make it fun and interesting. Not that Kiki will care. Where's my scissors? There it is. Where's my other scissors? Did David steal it? Oh, he had to have stolen it. It's not in my drawer. That man. Yeah, I used to have bonsai. They all died. Texas killed them. And I haven't restarted the hobby because I don't know. I've got enough things to take care of right now. So I'm going to use my scissors to just, and you can see where I used it before. You can see little bits of static grass there. But yeah, I mean, the thing with the bonsai, I could never get that moss to stay good either. Of course, part of that was probably my climate. I wouldn't have any problem with it here because it's cool and wet. But Texas, no, not so much. All those nice fragile mosses that come on top of the soil for your bonsai to help keep the moisture in, all just die when Texas hits them. I'm surprised I got my bonsai in Texas to live for as long as I did. I was diligent, but nowadays... Bonsai is a great, hobby. And you can do inside bonsai. You're limited in the numbers of trees or types of trees you can do, but indoor bonsai is a thing. And it is a great, relaxing hobby. It's just like, I've come to the conclusion that right now I have just enough hobbies. So I haven't, and it's expensive because the pots are expensive. The tree stock can be expensive if you want to start with something that isn't just a twig. But yeah, I mean, I do miss the bonsai shop in Texas because Sunshine Miniature Trees was amazing. It's a great bonsai shop. And I don't really have anything like that around here. A lot of the regular garden shops around here have bonsai stock, but it's not like dedicated, right? There might be one in the city, but I'm not willing to drive the 45 minutes. If I'd been smart, I would have gone down to Sunshine when I drove to ReaperCon because I could have driven a little bonsai tree back with me. Oh, there we, maybe? Yep, my glue is slowly coming out. My aperture must be a little bit cloggy. This is where I like to use the long snozzle for the Zap-A-Gap, although I might have a clog right there at the end. It is not wanting to come out. Hold on. Pokey tool. Hello, Prince Paradox. How's it going? We are attempting to glue some static grass onto this base, but first I have to get this clog out of the way. And then I have to get this pokey tool cleaned off because I just immersed it in super glue. And now we have a nice big bead of super glue. So actually, since I already have a pokey tool that's immersed in super glue, I'm just going to grab a bit of that bead, and I'm going to apply it very precisely. And then I can grab a different pokey tool, pick up the static grass, and pop it on there. Ah! Unless it's going to fight me, in which case we're going to fight. Fight. Sometimes static grass clumps be like that. Like, you're like, this was perfect, and then you try to get it onto the spot, and it acts like a recalcitrant tribble. And you're just like, "Arr!" So get it close enough, and then cram that sucker onto there. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, any like, I imagine that Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, any of those areas would be great to pick up some stuff. All right, so little tiny, and then I'm going to use this tiny little one just down on the gravel. Where's my glue? Did it retract? Or it probably slid right down the snozzle, and I need to like wipe the snozzle off. This is a mess. Oh well, it is what it is. It's one of those days. I'm not feeling great today, and so it's no surprise that my day is rather shaping up to be somewhat chaotic. Recalcitrant is one of my favorite words. Man, this glue today. I tell you, glue, what's up with you? Do I have to take your snozzle off and clear you out? Yeah, I think we've got just a very clogged snozzle, which happens. Then you have to grab a pokey tool and clear it out. Although actually it's not as clogged as it was acting, so I'm not sure. I'm just going to take some of that glue and pop it down here on the bottom with my pokey tool. And then grab the other pokey tool again and pop my little grass right onto there. And I can trim it. In this case, I'll wait and trim it afterwards. It's such a tiny little clump of grass that attempting to trim it beforehand is just going to be annoying. So I'll get some more trimming in after these guys dry. Now we're going to start putting some flocking around to try to blend in that grass so it's not just, oh, snozzle, totally. I think it's like snout and nozzle together because it's so long, and I'm used to dogs with long snouts. So essentially it's an adaptation of snoodle, which is when Kiki comes up and goes with her nose to inch her way into my lap, or to poke her nose onto something that's snoodling it. So snozzle is just an adaptation of snoodle, I think. Alrighty. But yeah, my snozzle definitely needs some help. Like I feel like it definitely has, it's having some issues. It's having some issues. So yeah, I've got a bunch of glue in here that's just going to really dry out. So I'm just going to use my pokey tool and kind of like excavate it a bit. Grab a Kleenex or a paper towel or something. I'm just going to stick my pokey tool in here and clear it out as much as I can so that the glue isn't just going to dry into a huge plug. And then I can just wipe off the pokey tool as I do that. It'll help me to get this stuff out of here. Now, be careful, because I just like almost glued my fingers together, because it's what happens with super glue. Because I thought I was okay, but then a little bit snuck out of the nozzle. I think we're all right. So really what I'm just doing is like going in there and grabbing it out. It's almost gone. I like these. David asked me if I ever use this, and I actually use it all the freaking time. Zap-A-Gap bottles come with one. but I like it for finer applications. And I like that the Zap-A-Gap also just has a normal nozzle, so that if I need it for bigger applications, I can do it. Yeah, big glob of super glue just came out the other end. I don't know why it was being all silly. It must have had a clog somewhere near the middle that was holding things up. Alrighty, excellent. Where did I put my regular nozzle? It's around here somewhere, but I probably like totally, oh, there it is. Yes, John is very nice. Snozzle is a noun. Yes. No, it's snoodle. Verb to snoodle is probably the verb derived from snozzle. Zachariah. She used her snozzle to snoodle me is a viable sentence in my speak. Morning, everybody. Slayer and and now super glue fumes. No, because I've got all that super glue out of there. All right, let's see. Is it good enough to trim? Yep, I can trim it. I'm just gonna grab some of this like really long stuff and kind of snip it off, and I'm gonna do several different snips so that it's all different, slightly different length. That'll be pretty good. All right, now let's get some of this other stuff on there. All right, so I'm not going to be using any of the leaves in here. I'm going to use just the regular debris. I'll just essentially find a section and pick the bigger leaves out of it, or if I accidentally get a big leaf onto my surface, I'm just going to pluck it right off before it sets. So once again, this is a mixture of a static grass, really fine flocking, fine sand, a bottle of like just dried herbs like oregano that I had that I just decided to sacrifice to the cause, and some of the leaf pods. I think I got like 2 different colors. And the sand mixed with the static grass lets you mound it up like so, and when you apply it with glue it tends to mound as well, which makes a very realistic turf appearance. Well, if snozzle is a real word, I mean, obviously I'm using it. It's a real word if you use it, right? Dr. Seuss taught me this, and I'm not going to call him a liar after all these years. I've always taken the English language to be quite flexible for my needs. I'm that person who was really, really, really good at English, but I used it for evil. Instead of becoming a grammar Nazi. I went the other way and became an inventive wordpreneur. I don't know. All right. So what I want to do ideally here is I want to apply some of this but I want to apply some of this around my static grass. So there's some room here and there. Ideally, I am going to use my snozzle, and hopefully it will work this time. Are you going to work, snozzle? Just going to make sure that my regular super glue is clear as well. Ah! Uh-oh. Glue is escaping! The glue is escaping. All right. Now Kiki's like, oh no, what, Mama, what? Because I used my alarmed voice. Just gonna keep that off. All right, let's see here. I want to get just a little bit of glue here. A little bit of glue up here. A little bit of glue down here. And this nozzle is really good for this, for fine application. I'm going to grab some of this stuff and sprinkle it over. I'm going to sprinkle it over the whole thing pretty copiously. Give it a second to sit into the super glue. Tap it with your finger. Tap the base. Tap it again to tilt it off. Blow across it. Now I've got a little bit of different texture in there. Not just the grass. So when I dry brush this, it's going to pick up different textures. And it's going to look a lot more organic. I'm going to put a little bit, I want to put a little bit back there. There's a space, a flat space back here that we can see with the camera. It's a little harder to get to. So once again, pour onto that, just like totally bury them. Tap it, let it set. Let it set again. Tap it off. Blow across it. Now we've got some of that texture. Yo, dog bother. So different textures surrounding the static grass. If we see some stuff that's just a little bit too up, we can take our knife or a pokey tool and kind of tamp it down. Sometimes the super glue just like dries in weird shapes. Can also trim some of this off if I can't get it to a point that I like it. I'm going to do more moss over here, or more flocking over here. We're going to repeat these steps as we work around the model. That was a big glob. So we'll see what we can do with that. I might, if it goes too much, then I'm going to scrape some of it away after I've got it on. I'll come at it from this direction. So I've got it there. Go a little less with the moss this time because I kind of want to look at it. The thicker your glue, the thicker a carpet of moss and plant life you're going to get. So actually it filled in kind of one of my steps here. You can see how it's nice. It's a slope now. So less gappy, less like over there. But it's really mixed into the static grass really well. It has static grass in it. Yes, I made it last night, seriously. It actually, I think, is one of my better soups. The only downside was since I put potatoes in it, I had it like tuned to the perfect level of saltiness when I tasted it. But then by the time it was on the table, the potatoes had sucked a lot of the salt out, so we had to add more salt. So it wasn't perfect when I went to the table because the potatoes betrayed me, as they will do. Usually I do not use potatoes in stew, but I decided to last night. So this is a weird little projection of stone, but I'm thinking of putting just a little bit of green up on it. So just a little bit. But yeah, this is my second or third time making prime rib soup, so I did the Instant Pot for the ribs. I got a lot of really perfect, tasty meat shreds off of those ribs too. I told David not to like trim them super close on purpose, so once I did like 45 minutes in the Instant Pot and shredded that tender beef off of the ribs, that was perfect. All right. So now we've got a little bit of green there. I wanted this to be pretty lush. So you've got green in various places now. It looks like it's a pretty good carpet of green. You can put this turf mix over the top of your static grass. You'll lose some of that static grass if you do. But like around this big patch of grass, I could totally see doing a line of the turf mix down the middle of it and just leaving grass on either side. Just to kind of like separate things out a little. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put a line of super glue down the middle of the grass. You can see the darker space. Pop that over the top. I just want a light coat, so I'm not going to let it sit for as long. Essentially, how long you let it sit. So now we've got a stripe of the turf with some grass on either side. That'll be nice. Now I'm going to bring my turf back here and out onto this little projection as well. My coaches, my normal CrossFit coaches are gone this week. I'm super sad. They're in some really warm freaking place too. I forget where exactly they were off to, but it was definitely not as cold as where any of us are. Smart people. That gives us just a little bit of bridging green there. Now we're going to put a little bit down here by this little grass tuft. The key is not to use just one type of basing material. The key is to mix things up so that it looks more organic. Just like we took our cork and disguised it so that it wasn't just cork. Now we take the grass and stuff and disguise it by mixing it into each other. So we get something a bit more complicated. And now we'll take this top part and do some grass up here. Just a little line of turf. Line of glue. Since I left my glue thicker, I'm going to put the turf on. I'm going to let it sit. Tap a little. And then we've got a bit of greenery growing on the top of that ridge. Just a little bit visible. There. And I could bring it up a little bit onto the front of the ridge, a little bit more. But I don't know if I want to cover up all of my rocks. I'm kind of deciding. Yeah, I think I'll leave it there. We can still see it from the front. Just a little. And we're not going to see it from that angle anyway. So yeah, I'm going to call that there. Now it's time to paint it and to touch up our rocks a little bit. So we'll give it a little time for the super glue to set. I'm going to mix up a burnt orange plus Osirian sand to bring some real warm tones into my stuff. I can use, this is where I like to actually grab for an actual burnt orange. So the actual burnt orange, 9111. Appalachian Trail is hardcore. One of our ReaperCon instructors, Brian Pearsall, he and his wife did, I don't remember if they did 10 days or 2 weeks of it, But it takes a long time to do the trail, like the trail. Like, it's a long time out in the wilderness. Yeah. Yeah, I think he did 2 weeks, he and his wife. Before they had kids. And they trained for it beforehand. Because it's definitely not a low fitness activity. At least not. I guess there are sections of it that are easier. But I don't think I've got the oomph for it yet. We'll see. After like 2 or 3 years in CrossFit, we'll see. We'll see if I have the oomph. Although David and I like civilization too much to probably do the Appalachian Trail. Like, we like to go out and hike, but then at the end of the day, we like to come back to our civilization and our really nice restaurant. That's kind of where we are on that continuum. I'm going to put away my glue. We're just going to work with paint for a bit. Let me get back a bit. So I have the burnt orange. I did put a drop of Assyrian sand into it. Yeah, there are plenty of it because people are dumb. That's an industrious squirrel. That's a brave squirrel, Zachariah. I had some giggles watching my squirrel, my little girl squirrel, who's out on my porch. She lives out and hunts out there, hunts for food and buries her nuts and stuff, and always forgets where she buries them. But I had fun watching her try to figure out if she could get to the bird feeder yesterday. The answer was no. Thanks, Sam. This is one of my favorite ones that I've done recently. We do a rotation here with 6 different models, and then we once we finish one, we replace it. So I'm mixing up some burnt orange, some lighter burnt orange. I want to get it real thin. I don't want to like actually paint my rocks orange, but I want some touches. I learned this trick from Michael Proctor, so credit where credit is due. But that rocks, like light oranges, burnt oranges, are a really good thing to use on your stonework. Especially gray, but also like brown and gray like we did these. We're talking about hiking, Sam's, and painting. And I just applied a bunch of flocking and grass, and so I'm going to highlight my rocks while I wait for that glue to dry. And then I'm going to go over and paint highlight over the top of those basing materials to make them look a little bit more natural, more like they belong. I don't like using basing materials just flat. I think there's almost always a bit of gloss or something that looks a little bit off, so I like to at least highlight them. But yeah, this model's pretty much done except for that, so. Let's see here. So yeah, just want to get a little bit of orange here and there. You don't want to paint every rock orange, but you're just introducing little touches. If you've watched the way that Michael paints, he tends to introduce a lot of different colors like into his shadows and highlights. But he doesn't like necessarily do it like, it's not like he's taking one color and putting it everywhere, right? It's much more organic than that. So you can see how that kind of brings it up and makes it a little warmer. Not as gray. So just little touches here and there, and it'll warm up that and make it look more like a warm stone or a dirt mix. It's mostly what I want. There we go. So brings up a lot of light onto the rocks. If chins could kill. Yeah, I remember that now. I always made a note to pick that one up, and I hadn't. And I like autobiographies, so maybe I'll make a note. Let me go look it up since I'm in autobiography land. Bruce Campbell. I'll go and bookmark it real quick. Yes. And it's great. It's a great cover, too. It's a great cover. If chins could kill. With the little arrow, just in case you were missing it. Confessions of a B-movie actor. The question is, does he narrate the audiobook? Now I need to go look. Because if he narrates the audiobook, I'm in. Who narrates it? I'm looking. Yes, narrator, Bruce Campbell. All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to get that on audio. My Audible is still active right now. I usually, like, when I want a book, I, like, reactivate my Audible, and then, like, inevitably I run out of books that are recent releases that I want to listen to, and so then my Audible falls back into dormant state. So I eventually cancel it, usually after I've got a few credits stored up, and we just go back and forth. But usually it takes me long enough to reactivate it that they offer me a special deal anyway, so that's the way to Audible, folks. Interesting. Yeah, usually usually at the new year, I get very much in a mood to read autobiography and biography. I'm almost done with my Julie Andrews. Man, she's had a life. Hello, Richard. No, I've got that one on audio, so I need to listen to it. That's my next one, is the Arnold Schwarzenegger one. I was thinking about doing some painting tonight, so I might start it. I like to listen to stuff like when I'm walking or painting, but lately on my walk I haven't been listening to anything because I've been thinking about my book. So just a little bit of extra highlighting in here. But yeah, I've always liked Arnie, so it should be fun. It should be a fun read. It's funny how much, like, with all that Arnold has done in his life, he's, like, still a legendary, like, bodybuilder. Like, the CrossFit people, like, talk about him and, like, quote him. It's really funny. I'm like, like, all this guy is done, and you guys are still talking about his biceps? It's funny. So just little touches of the orange here and there just to lighten up some of this, make it look more, you can see it's looking more interesting and varied. It's not looking, it's not looking quite so uniform. It helps that I put the green stuff up here on top. It gives us a little bit of different texture up here to work with. This vertical texture, which is different from the cork. Yeah, it's funny because until I started CrossFit, I never really interfaced with Arnie's, that part of his history. But now it's like people talk about him like at the gym regularly. Yeah, it's almost done now, Mac. Yeah, I think, but that's the kind of physique where once you've gotten it, Kuro, I think you just continue to keep it up. Like, having worked that hard, even though he wasn't doing, like, Mr. Universe, like, type stuff, I'm certain that he continued doing, he continued upkeep on keeping his it probably did CrossFit or an equivalent of it, weights and cardio while he was in Hollywood. Because once you have that level of fitness, you feel like, well, you know that. You feel bad when you lose it. You fight to get it back because you want to be able to do all the things you want to do and look awesome. Alrighty. Just a little bit more, and then all my glue should be dried, so I can go back and get that. Your abs will be back eventually, Arnico. Yeah. Yeah, plus, I mean, if you get to that point, and I haven't read his book yet, but I'm certain that you get to really enjoy working out, right? You really enjoy it. And so, even if he didn't keep up, like, Mr. Universe level, which is pretty insane, I can totally see that he would still keep up his workout. So even David was impressed with my waterfall, guys. I almost forgot, I need to take pure white and paint over some of these water effects to make them brighter and also to make sure they're not shiny. So we're going to do that real quick. I have never been able to do pull-ups, so my goal is to eventually do a pull-up. However, the goal that leads to that is actually to get back down to about 20 pounds lower than I am right now, which will help. Because when you're trying to lift your body weight, having your body weigh less is really good. At least that's the way I'm thinking of it. So I'm going to keep my white full strength. And it's all of this little stipply stuff down at the bottom. It's actually got, you can see that it actually rises, it sticks up. So it's got 3D. But I don't want any of these shinies. So I'm going to be stippling my pure white over the top of my water effects to kill the shinies and also to bring up the foam. Let's see, let's get this in frame so you guys can see that a little bit better. There we go. That's what the water looks like. I may keep this one because I really like its layer. I don't know if Ron's going to get this one. Especially because whenever I do something like that's like a first time I've done it and I really am happy with how it's turned out, I tend to keep those. And the water effects here are probably the best painted water effect I've ever done, so. So we painted the splashies to make them look, you can see it. The stippling really is where you want to be with that technique, because that's what you're getting here, the foam at the bottom. And then I've got a little bit up here. A lot less room. Uh-oh. Hey, no, there's nobody here. Thank you, though. Yeah. Keys. I'm sure somebody just opened up our gate and popped a package down inside of it, so she's all silly. Yeah, I think, yeah, and that's what but that's what happens, Airways, as far as hit or miss for strengths areas. I was actually surprised. I would have bet that my lower body was stronger than my upper, but that was not the case. It was weird. So, good girl, you scared it away. Go settle now. But yeah, so I was surprised too that I would have thought that certain areas were better than others. It's just a little bit of stipples to bring up that light. I can also just concentrate and bring it up on the edges of these falls a little bit more. That's what CrossFit is for me, Shadow Raven. Everybody's like lying on the floor after the workout. Or sitting up against the wall. That's usually me. Usually it's me doing the figure 4 stretches. I'm still not to the point that I feel great after every CrossFit workout. Because I'm still trying to balance. I think I still try to do too much. So I end up going a little bit more toward the dying part of it and a little less toward the just a really good workout part of it. But I think I'll get better at that as time goes by. I just always overestimate what I can do. This is a recurring theme with me. A little bit of stipple. But yeah, I really like this waterfall. There we go. All right. So yeah, there we are. We have pretty water. And it looks real, so I'm happy. Cool, Richard. Excellent. All right, it is time to get some color and dry brushing up on these flock mixtures. And a lot of that I like to use, let's grab, I've got some interesting colors back here. Let me try to see what I can find here. That one's too dark. This one could be good. So Boggart Green from Pathfinder is a good color for this. So is Osirian Sand. I usually want to use at least one off yellow creamy color. And I'll also grab some of my Leaf Bud green. Yeah, except I need to actually go a little lower than that, even Shadow Raven. Like, because I tend to hit my, like, top end of my maximum heart rate. Like, I'm at 163. Like, I'm in my upper 90, upper 10 percentile, and I'm better. I feel better after the workout if I don't quite hit that, if I stay in my 150s. So I'm going to grab a bit of this leaf bud green, which is, of course, came out with orchid purple. It was one of the last colors I formulated, and it was the color that we used up on his green tunic. I'm going to actually put a little bit of the boggard green in there. And we'll start with that. Oh, Luke. Yeah, I don't know. I've only felt really, really good after one CrossFit so far. I felt okay after last night. It's just like after that one time of feeling really, really good, I just want more of that. So I'm just like, how do I get more of that? So I want a light springy green, so yellow green. That's pretty good. I'm going to start applying that over the top of my grass. I'm going to rinse out my brush. See if I've got a smaller flat to use. I tend to like smaller flats to use for this. Or my small dry brush from GW would work fine, actually. It's not as good as a flat, but it will work. Probably need to order a couple of flats from Reaper. Alright, so we'll just have a real light touch here. Pathfinder and Bones are very similar. I use the same paint tech for both. It's just Pathfinder is a different selection of colors. Pathfinder wasn't designed by me, so it's not like designed for a particular use. A Pathfinder, if you read my recent paint lines, or watched my recent paint lines video, or read the PDF if you're on my Patreon, you know that some paint lines honestly are just collections of colors that are designed by a company to fit their IP, and that's all that Pathfinder is. So it's essentially using MSP and Bones technology to create a section of colors that fit the Pathfinder IP and world. I like a lot of the Pathfinder colors, so I tend to use them a lot. They're otherwise interchangeable with everything else in MSP. So we're going to get some paint on our brush, and we're going to pull a lot of it off. Not like dry brushing wise, I'm not using an absorbent surface to pull it off. I just want a thinner amount. And then I'm going to start brushing it over the top of some of this stuff. If I don't have enough, I'm going to come back for more. If you carry more on your brush, you chance getting some real big dabs and drops. There we go. And I'm not covering up all of this. I'm not completely painting over the static grass and the flocking. That's why I choose a certain ground color. Like it does matter what color my base turf and flocking is. I tend to go darker because that makes it easier to just dry brush the texture. And that way I can keep some of these other varied colors from the mixes. But by doing this brush over, I kill any gloss because static grass is glossy. So I kill the gloss, and I also am painting it so it's going to look more like it belongs with a figure. So you can see how that brings out the static grass like bits. You can see how the different blades of grass actually show up a lot better after I do this. And that's the goal, is to just bring everything more in line with what your model looks like. So yeah, Pathfinder colors are probably closer to MSP basic. In that, since they are formulated straight up for color, they are not formulated as much for coverage. Bones was formulated a little bit more for coverage. But otherwise, there are plenty of nicely covered, good coverage colors in Pathfinder. It just depends on the pigment. But I was matching particular Pantones for those, so I had to stick to, I needed to match that color. It was less about function. And that's why I say different paint lines and like their goals, that's echoed in the utility of the line depending on who you are and what you want to use a paint line for. Above 120, how Mac attack? Well, you can still get a pretty good workout. Like, I mean, for ages, I just walked it in the evening and I would try to peg my heart rate between like 110 and 116. So it's not like it doesn't give you a good workout. It still activates those chemical processes that tell your body that, you know, you're moving and it's good and your body should repair. It's good anti-inflammatory exercise, actually. So again, just kind of bringing out these textures and see how it brings out that texture. Now we're going to get the next color, and we're going to go over the top again, but we're going to do it lighter, and that will be the Osirian Sand. So we're going to bring in a yellow. If I wanted to, I could bring in a little bit of my leaf bud color to my Osirian Sand and just give it a little bit of green hints. We might do that. Boop. I don't need very much of this. So we'll pop just a little. I don't want to lose my yellow, but I could give it a little bit of a green. A little bit of a green shift. There we go. Once again, we're gonna kind of use just the side of the palette. As I'm painting things, painting my microphone. This is the bad part about reaching when the brush is in your hand. I'm gonna rinse out the brush, reload it. Alright, squeeze out the brush so it's pretty dry, and load it with the yellow, really pale yellow, and this we want to just real gently get just a little bit of it, just an additional highlight to make it again more varied, right, less uniform, so that it looks natural. And it doesn't take very long at this point because you're just really trying to pick up a little bit here and there. And I'm still getting a fair amount of some of the brown tones and stuff from this base flocking showing through. But I also have brought out the texture that I wanted. So you see how it's shifting in color, it has different areas. There we go. And I think that will look pretty good there. And using the leaf bud green as one of the mixes to touch up the foliage brings it a little closer to the greens that he's got on him. So if you're looking to paint rangers or elves that are going to blend into their surroundings, do that. Like if you're using greens on them, use those greens as well in your basing so that you get more of that feel like the model could actually blend into its surroundings. Yeah, wood grain, simple wood grain is pretty easy. You could do all sorts of different colors and you can bring it up more than I did. I just wanted to keep that dark so that the arm really stood out against it. So there we are, folks. The only thing that I could possibly have done that I didn't do is if I had made some nice shelf mushrooms. Those would be kind of cool down here on the side. Would have given us a chance to put some like cream colored accents down here and some more details. So like if I had been doing this for competition, I probably would have done that. I would have actually sculpted some more types of stuff. I might have actually used like a fallen branch or something, a little twig, to help mix up the base, because the more natural stuff you can add to the base, the better it's going to look. So like if I had like a twig and some mushrooms, then it would look better, right? It would look even better. So yeah, the only things I would change if I was painting this for comp would probably be some simple freehand along the bottom of the cape and adding some more natural details on the back. But otherwise, I think that he turned out spectacular. So I'll bring him to ReaperCon so you guys can see him close up. Yep, there we go. Yeah, that's rough, Mac. I hope you come through it okay. Surgery's never fun. I speak from experience. But yeah, I think on all our colors translated through pretty well. The purple was perfect. So good, 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 good. I'm pleased. I'm pleased with this model. Let's sign it. Let's convince him to get up off this very goopy sticky tack base. Look at how goopy that is. I need to mix that with some of my regular blue tack so that it isn't quite so bad. So I'm going to grab some of that. And then we're going to choose a new model to replace him. Where are you, blue tack? I have a bunch of crap in here. Ah, there it is. My lighter blue is a little less sticky. And the mounting putty is really less sticky. So I think we'll grab some of that too. And that's the mounting putty, is just the cream colored stuff. And if I add a bunch into this, then I've essentially created a new glob of blue stuff to use on mini bases. So we got some blue and some mounting, and then we'll grab this. No, I'll pass on the Twitter channel. I've had enough medical emotional roller coasters. I think I would probably just start getting flashbacks. So I'll just wish you well, and you can let us know how it turns out. So we're essentially just folding the different types of blue tack together. And adding in the less sticky stuff should stabilize our really sticky blue tack a bit. And I'm kneading it just like green stuff or silly putty. We're just trying to get it together. You can see the different streaks in it. All right. Hello? Who is saying hello? Oh, Beards. Beards and Battle Axes. Hi. We're just finishing up this model. I was just mixing up some new blue tack so I can pull off the blue tack down there. But here you go. This is the guy we just finished. There we are. Yeah, I'm really happy with him. I'm thinking that maybe I keep him instead of giving him to Reaper. So once we've got our new blue tack that's a lot less taffy-like mixed up, we can use it to just take this other blue tack right off the bottom with a minimal of effort. And not just, don't just press it up and down. Also push it. Push it to the side as you're doing this. It'll pull up the blue so much better. The shield is not me. It's not freehand. It's actually sculpted on there by Mr. Bobby Jackson himself. So this is all just me painting what he already did. Yeah, Bobby does good stuff. And now we're gonna choose a new mini to replace this one. So I need to go over and see what I have prepped. So give me, yeah, it's sculpted. We just painted what was there. Bobby set us up for success. So yeah, so now my blue tack is nice and it's not stringy anymore. It's got a nice solid feel to it, but it's still, because of that darker blue that was stringy, it still has a good stickiness, so it'll stick down our next model really well. All right, so let me go and see what I've got on my desk. Kiki, no. Let's see here. What do I have? Anything? Anything, Kiki? I thought I had more than this over here, Keeks. Did I not prep everything? I guess we already used the Dragonborn. Yeah, because we already subbed in the Sophie. Oh, I know what we can do. We can work on Corindra. Hold on. Forget this. We're going to sub in Corindra because I want to finish her. I was like, I don't really feel like starting a whole new thing. So let's go to other showy base mini, but much more wintry. We'll work on her for the rest of the stream, and we'll sub her in for a link. That would be Corindra Thistlemore 7012 for the Quindy in our lives. Oh, I was going to sign this, though. I should sign this base quick. Yeah, and since she has a bigger base, I can put her up on the same block of wood that Mellonir was on. Yeah, Angry Link is pretty much exactly as I had wanted him to be. It's Larry Elmore. It's the Companion Dungeons & Dragons set cover. Personally autographed to me, I'll have you know. I never seal my mini smack. Not when I'm painting with Master Series. I don't find it necessary. It's a display model, so it's not going to get frequent handling. And I do not find that I get rub off. Especially not on a soft material like bones. Like if it was metal, maybe. But I don't think I've sealed a single mini that I've ever painted on this stream. That was kind of the point of going for a higher adhesion paint line, although I thought I would still seal stuff, but I just don't. Yeah, we don't have much time left, Quindy, so I don't know what we'll do. I might just paint over the griffin head a bit. So not necessary to edit the title, but yeah. Oh, I did not want to do that. I did not want to stick him back on there. I wanted to paint his butt or base or autograph. Yeah, that. So let's put Corindra on here like she should be. I think I'm going to squish her around there, that way. There. Boop. All right, so we'll go to this lady next. Yes, I believe the actual autograph is Anne. Anne, best wishes. Jim says you are a great painter. And then I also had another one, which unfortunately was damaged in the move, which was a direct, Anne great painting, because he loved how I painted his figures. He thought he liked my stuff better than Verzani's, so I mean that's pretty much all the accolade I ever need. Let's see here. I'm gonna pop that back. I just want to throw some of these colors. I've got a ton of colors built up here on my tabletop, and it's annoying me. Super annoying. So I'm just gonna pop some of this stuff back where it belongs. Yeah, everybody else tended to like Verzani's because it was much more punchy, because he always does super saturated colors and stuff like that. But I wanted to paint Larry's models more like Larry actually painted the canvas, the characters on the canvas. So that meant a much more naturalistic. If you look at Larry's work, you know what I mean. And he really liked that I did that. So yeah. So I don't care if other people didn't like my paint jobs as much. So Larry Elmore liked them, and that's all that matters. All right, cool. So Angry Link can go get his little signature done on his base. I think this is the first model I'm signing of 2024. Oh, I guess I should have my glasses on, or it'll be a very wobbly signature. But yeah, I don't generally seal. I do need to add a little bit of water, though. Yeah, I don't generally seal my minis because it just doesn't require them. Like, MSP is not going to really come off, so. You should, well, never, this should is a silly thing. You don't need to, but I enjoy doing it because then when I'm looking at an old model, I can look at the year that I did it and kind of remember where I was in life at that time. It's kind of a cool thing. So I always do my signature. Then I'll usually like go over and make it a little more solid. When I was a little kid, I would look at all the signatures of my favorite artists, Larry included, and I would be all, excited about making my own artist signatures. So when I was in my teens, I started using this, and I've just kept it with small variations ever since. There we go. Yeah, it is signing right. It's just I always do it on the bottom of the base. Plus, you know, it served a different purpose also at Reaper, because a lot of times we're looking at stuff in the Reaper gallery that's like 20 years old or 15 or 10, and if you can't remember who painted it originally, it's good to have a signature on the bottom that you can check. There we go. So the year, initials in the year is pretty much how I sign them. And then we're good. Done. Done, done, done. Yeah, I'll have to figure out, like, what models Ron gets this year. Because I know I'm giving some to sculptors. And if I end up keeping that one, then I need to figure out what we're going to do. Okay, Corindra. Well, we've got Corindra's little 3D printed brazier. I should probably look over that and make sure that I've got all the little nubbins off of it. I can see some nubbins just looking at it. So I 3D printed this, found this on my mini factory. It's like from a goblin or a dwarven diorama type thing. And we just printed it out. It was a very cheap STL file. But it's nice to have little basing bits. This is one of the advantages of 3D printing, I think, is just the ability to find these little bits of like dungeon dressing and basing materials that you need and be able to print them at any size that you need. So yeah, just going over this a little bit. We don't have a lot of time left on the stream, so I don't really want to mix up a bunch of paint and then have to stop halfway through. So that's a little bits of, some of it's just texture and some of it is from the printing process. So I'm just taking a look and trying to clean that up so that we can add this to the character's base. And once we have the base coat down on the griffin head, I'll add this. It doesn't have to be perfect, but because it is just a basing piece, but there we go. It'll sit on this little feet on there, so I think we're good. This is kind of a hammered texture on this, the brazier itself, so if I have a little bit of texture from my knife, it's not a big deal. Good. And I will prime this before I put that on. Yeah, this is the one I printed, Tristonoma. Yeah, I think it's a better fire from some angles than from some others, but it works. So we'll prime this sucker and then we will, but that's how big it is. We'll prime it, we'll paint the underside dark, then we'll glue it in place once we have the griffin head done. And may need to green stuff a little bit just to blend it into the top of the griffin head. So yeah, these are the two big bases that we're doing right now with Ed, but Ed is simpler. Speaking of which, Monday is Ed, by the way. Ed is Monday. So we'll be back to working on Ed on Monday, and I'll try to get the kitty cats. I need to find an undead kitty cat for his base. So I need to go and search my closet to find the kitty cats. No, because I'm painting her as if it's daylight, it doesn't matter if the brazier is lit or not. I'm not doing OSL, Richard. I could do a little bit of OSL, like just in the top of this metal here. I'd have to look. There would be maybe a tiny bit of fire reflection in the metal there. Just like a more a pinpoint than anything. Maybe a tiny bit on the underside of the helmet here. But otherwise, you're really just, during daylight, your fire doesn't, it's not nearly as bright as the sun, so it doesn't really reflect anywhere. I'd rather do the fire, have it be the signal fire. Otherwise, it's just a cup. I like the Dark Sword one. I had a pack of 4, so I may as well use them. My Griffin face. Griffin face is happy. He'll be painted soon. So not a lot of vegetation, if any, that we'll be putting on this base. We want to do snow covered. So I'll be doing that. I probably will use my Games Workshop snow paste because I like it and I think it's good. Hey, Lunatic. That didn't sound nice. Hello, Lunatic Design. We're just like doing some little steps on this big model because we just finished one, and so I'm at the end of my stream. This is what we just finished, Lunatic Design. So we're going from spring to winter instead of winter to spring, just because, well, that's the way it worked out. But yeah, so now I've got to finish this other one. It's been kind of sitting in limbo. I did some Halloween models, so it got kicked out. But now it's winter, so it's a suitable model, a suitable time to work on my winter piece here. Honestly, just white, seriously, and then I'm just going to use like a walnut to paint the underside. But I like to prime white. The only time I don't prime white or light gray, I prime Zenith. But I never black prime. Ever. I can't see the details with it, and I don't like the darkness it brings to a figure. I find that I get much better control of light and shadow. For me, I get much better control of light and shadow starting with a neutral, like light gray or white. So that's what I do. But yeah, so back to that thing there. And we are pretty much done. But yeah, it doesn't make sense to zenith this because the fire, that just doesn't make sense at all. So it makes more sense to do it white and then just paint the areas, whatever color I decide I want it. Technically, I think it's sculpted to be like a stone brazier with like brass fittings. Oh, I missed a tiny little 3D print bit on the top of this. There we go. Those little sneaky things, they're everywhere. Oh, there's one on the bottom too. But yeah, I would much rather always prime white or light gray. It gives me the most control. If you're doing a model that's very dark feeling, then black is great. I will be talking about this, by the way, for those who are patrons. I'm about to shoot. I got my video all outlined, I think. I spent the last couple days watching James Wapple videos and taking notes and thinking about stuff. But I'll be talking about why his models look so dark versus why mine don't. That's the question I got from one of my new patrons. So we'll be talking about that and the whys and wherefores of it on that $10 PDF this month. So that should hopefully get done. It'll get done today or Monday. You guys can expect it then. Those of you who are patrons, I know there are many of you on here. But yes, thank you for hanging out and sticking with me through my basing escapades. And the Kiki barking. I still have no idea what set her off. I'll probably walk outside and there'll be a package inside of our gate. She usually only really goes off like that if she can hear the gate go open and closed. Yes, thanks for coming by, Slayer. Thank you. Yep, you're welcome, as always. And then, yes, Monday will be Ed. And yes, I will be streaming tomorrow on my own channel, twitch.tv/paintingbig, at 3:30-ish p.m. Central USA time. And we'll be working probably on Barbarian Girl because I'm really enjoying her, and I want to I want to get more work done on her because I really like how the yellow is turning out. I want to do some of the bronze edging on her armor and maybe the blades even. And then really start hitting the skin is blocked, but I want the skin to go up higher, so yeah. Oh, I appreciate the lurk, Sakurai. I appreciate the lurk. Hey, more viewers is good. But yeah, so I'll see you guys. I'll see some of you guys tomorrow in the middle of the day, all right? Have a good one. Stick out the cold or the rain or the whatever you're currently battling weather-wise, and I will see you again. Have a good one.